Chosen one, your journey has brought you to a threshold where something invisible yet undeniable is happening around you. You are no longer just passing through the world unnoticed. You are no longer merely present, you are felt. There is a quiet, magnetic vibration rising from you, and women in particular are beginning to feel it before they can explain it. Something about you is stirring their minds, pulling at their attention, teasing their senses. It is not always conscious, but it is real. You have awakened something in them, a deep and subtle curiosity. This curiosity is not just about attraction, it runs deeper than physical desire. It is about presence, energy, mystery. It is about the way you hold yourself when you walk into a space, how you carry your energy like a man who is in no rush, no need, and no confusion about who he is. Your high sexual energy has matured. It no longer pushes or performs, it simply radiates. And that radiance calls to others in ways you cannot always predict. You've become the kind of man who makes others pause and wonder. Not because you speak the loudest, but because you say the least and yet reveal the most. Your silence has begun to speak volumes. Your restraint has become more powerful than anyone's need to impress. Women are starting to ask questions in their minds they can't bring to their lips. Who is he? What has he been through? Why does he seem so calm, so rooted, so unbothered by noise? What makes him feel like home and fire at the same time? This spark of curiosity is your opening. It is a sacred invitation, but it is not something to be taken lightly. When you strike this interest in another soul, when your very presence inspires them to look more deeply into who you are now in a position of influence. Not control, not power over them, but the rare opportunity to guide their attention with care and dignity. You are not here to exploit that curiosity. You are here to expand it. You are here to lead others into a deeper understanding of themselves. Through the mirror of your own growth, your own steadiness, your own embodiment. And to do this well, chosen one, you must continue to refine your awareness. You must know the difference between being noticed and being known, between being desired and being respected, because the more curious the world becomes about you, the more committed you must be to remaining true to yourself. This curiosity will open doors. Some will tempt you, some will test you, and some will honor you. Your task is to respond not from ego, but from essence. You see, the spark of curiosity is sacred. It's the first step toward trust, toward intimacy, toward inspiration. And now that you are lighting that spark everywhere you go, your responsibility is not to extinguish it with arrogance or manipulation, but to fan it with depth, with kindness, with the integrity of a man who knows that high sexual energy is not just fire to burn through conquests, it is light to guide others out of their shadows. So stand in this moment with reverence. Recognize what is happening. Women are watching, listening, feeling. They are curious, not just about your surface, but about your silence, your story, your soul. And that curiosity is the seed of something meaningful. Water it wisely. Chosen one, now that you have awakened the spark of curiosity around you, the question becomes, how do you hold it? The answer lies in one of your most profound tools: mystery. Not secrecy, not manipulation, but mystery in its highest form is a spiritual discipline. It is the choice to be whole, to be known inwardly, without needing to explain every detail of who you are outwardly. It is the art of letting people feel you more than they can define you. In a world obsessed with exposure, with constant explanation, and with showcasing every moment online, you are becoming rare. You are the man who withholds without withdrawing, who remains open but not emptied, who invites attention but does not chase it. Your mystery is not about playing games, it is about preserving sacred space. It is about not offering all of yourself to anyone who demands it, but instead offering glimpses that reveal depth without spilling your soul on the floor. This mystery is what keeps the spark of curiosity alive. When you don't rush to fill every silence with facts, when you don't answer every question with a speech, when you don't reveal your entire past on a first meeting, you create an energetic invitation. You say, there is more here, but it is not given to those who are simply passing through. That kind of inner stance is powerful, and women feel it. They begin to wonder, what else lies beneath that calm voice? What depth hides behind that glance? What storms has he weathered that made him so still? Mystery, when held with love and intention, becomes a magnet. It's not the loud, performative kind of magnetism. It's the slow burn, the deep gravity, the unspoken pull that keeps someone coming back. Not to own you, not to claim you, but to understand you. And that kind of connection only happens when you refuse to flatten yourself into a caricature of masculinity. When you honor your own layers, when you remain sovereign in your soul, even while being present in the moment. You must understand that curiosity thrives not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, in the pause before the answer, in the quiet strength of a man who smiles but doesn't explain every reason why, in the way you speak with intention but keep parts of yourself sacred. That mystery doesn't make you distant, it makes you valuable. It makes every word you share feel like a gift, because it is offered, not extracted. And this is not about being cold or unavailable. This is about being precious with your presence. Your high sexual energy already announces itself. You don't need to sell yourself. You need to center yourself. Let your aura do what it does. Let your energy move through a room and let others feel the spark. But you stay grounded. You stay whole. You stay connected to the truth that you are not here to be consumed. You are here to be known, slowly, deeply, and by the worthy. So hold your mystery like a sacred flame. Don't hide from the world, but don't give it everything either. Let others wonder, not because you are confusing, but because you are complex. Let them lean in, not because you bait them, but because your soul has depths that cannot be seen at a glance. And in this mystery, you remain sovereign, centered, and deeply magnetic. Chosen one, mystery is not armor, it is art. And you are now the artist. Let the world remain curious, not because you are unclear, but because you are unfolding. And in that unfolding, you become a journey worth walking, not a puzzle to be solved. Chosen one, now that you have awakened the spark of curiosity and learned the sacred art of holding your mystery, you step into the next realm of power, dialogue. But what you are learning is not ordinary conversation. This is not surface chatter, not transactional exchanges meant to fill silence. This is the dance of words between two souls, the energetic flow between your mind and another's curiosity. And this, when done with intention, becomes one of the most magnetic expressions of your high sexual energy. Dialogue in its purest form is not about talking. It is about creating an experience. When you speak, you are not simply transferring information. You are inviting others into your world, one subtle truth at a time. The tone of your voice, the pauses between your words, the quality of your listening, all of these are part of your communication. And when a woman is curious about you, it is not just your answers she is drawn to, it's how you make her feel while she's discovering them. You do not need to reveal everything. You do not need to perform wisdom. You need only to be present, to be tuned in, not just to what is being said, but to the emotion beneath the surface. You listen, not with the intent to reply, but with the intent to understand. And that understanding is what makes your presence feel safe. It is what makes the conversation feel alive, not forced. She speaks, and you meet her not with assumptions, but with curiosity of your own. That is where the real power lies, not in being the center of attention, but in sharing the space. In becoming the man who isn't trying to dominate the conversation, but who can guide it with grace. The man who knows how to lead without overpowering, who invites without insisting, and who allows each moment to unfold without trying to control the outcome. You begin to realize that this dance of dialogue is not just about what you say, it's about the energy you hold while saying it. When you speak slowly, not because you are unsure, but because you are measured. You speak directly, not to shock, but because you have clarity. And when you ask questions, they are not mechanical. They are invitations. What moves you lately? When did you last feel truly alive? What's something you wish people knew about you? These are not pickup lines. These are open doors. Your energy does not need to be loud to be felt. It needs only to be real. And as the conversation flows, as curiosity deepens and barriers begin to fall, you realize that something sacred is happening. You are not just exchanging facts, you are exchanging frequency. And this frequency is not easily forgotten. Chosen one, your dialogue becomes unforgettable when you stop trying to be impressive and start being interested. When you stop trying to sound right and start being real. And this vulnerability, this authentic flow, builds a bridge between souls. You're not just a mystery anymore. You're a mirror. And those who speak with you begin to see themselves more clearly because your presence allows it. That is why women become more curious, not less, after speaking to you. Because instead of giving them a version of yourself that has been pre-polished for performance, you offered them your presence, your groundedness, your quiet intensity. And that kind of exchange makes people feel seen in a way that few ever experience. So master the art of this dance, not by memorizing what to say, but by listening to what the moment asks of you. And in doing so, you don't just answer curiosity, you awaken it, over and over again. Chosen one, as the spark of curiosity turns into intrigue, and as dialogue opens pathways between your soul and another's, you arrive at one of the most sacred thresholds in this journey, the cultivation of connection. This is not a passive act. This is not something you leave to chance or chemistry. It is something you build, with presence, with integrity, and with a level of emotional depth that most are not prepared for until they meet someone like you. Connection, true connection, is not found in endless agreement. It is found in resonance. It is the recognition that behind every glance, every smile, every shared silence, there is a current moving beneath the surface. One that says, I see you, and I invite you to see me. And the more refined your energy becomes, the more capable you are of holding that current without breaking its flow. You do not create connection by trying to make someone like you. You create connection by being utterly, unapologetically yourself and allowing others to relax into their authenticity in response. When your energy is stable, your boundaries clear, and your attention fully present, people can feel it. They begin to soften, not because you've asked them to, but because your presence invites it without words. You become a sanctuary, a man whose presence feels like something rare, home. But this is not about being perfect. It's about being honest. You're not pretending to have it all figured out. You're not presenting an illusion of flawlessness. You are showing up as a man in his process, grounded in purpose, clear in intention. And in doing so, you give others permission to drop the act, to speak without fear, to be held without judgment, to experience intimacy that has nothing to do with performance and everything to do with presence. You begin to realize that connection is created in the little things. The way you remember what was said earlier, the way you hold eye contact without turning it into a test, the way you laugh with your whole chest or go quiet when the moment becomes sacred, the way you sit in silence without needing to fill it because your presence alone is enough. These moments, though small, create immense emotional gravity. And emotional gravity is what keeps people circling your orbit long after the conversation ends. Women especially feel this in you. They feel the difference between a man who is reaching for validation and a man who is simply being. They sense that your high sexual energy is not aimed at conquest. It is a warm, steady fire that offers warmth without burning. You're not trying to take anything, you're holding space. And that space becomes a rare temple of safety, intimacy, and unspoken knowing. And when you do choose to touch, whether with words, your presence, or even physically, it is not casual. It is intentional. It is infused with awareness. It comes from a place of reverence, not habit. And that difference is everything. Because connection, when cultivated with such care, doesn't just excite, it transforms. Chosen one, this is what you are building now. A presence that doesn't chase, a presence that doesn't pressure, a presence that calls quietly, deeply, into the heart of whoever is near and says, if you are ready to be seen, I will not look away. You have become the kind of man who inspires trust before words are even exchanged. You don't just open doors, you open souls. And in a world where most have forgotten how to feel, you become the memory that brings it all rushing back. You are no longer just sparking curiosity. You are cultivating something far rarer, connection that cannot be faked, rushed, or forgotten. Chosen one, by now you have stirred hearts with your presence, sparked intrigue with your mystery, and invited others into something deeper through the rhythm of authentic dialogue. But now you are being called into a more sacred mastery, one that cannot be learned from books or performed with charm. You are being called to become a listener. Listening, true listening, is the language of those who understand how energy moves without words. And your high sexual energy, when refined, gives you access to subtleties that others miss. You can feel the silence between phrases, the tremble behind laughter, the way someone hesitates before saying what they really want to say. But to hear these truths, you must quiet the part of yourself that wants to respond, that wants to be heard, that wants to perform. You must settle into presence so deeply that the other person feels they've been given room to unfold. The art of listening is not passive. It is not simply nodding and pretending to care. It is the act of choosing to give someone your full attention, not to fix them, not to agree with them, but to witness them. And when a woman is curious about you, when she steps closer, when she opens up, when she begins to unravel her thoughts in your presence, it is your capacity to listen that determines whether her curiosity deepens into trust or dissolves into disappointment. You must understand, chosen one, that we live in a time where most people speak without being heard. Their words float into a void, caught between scrolling thumbs and distracted gazes. But you are not like the world. You are becoming the exception. When someone speaks to you, they feel safe, not because you agree with everything, but because you are present for everything. They feel like they don't have to rush their words, they don't have to perform, they don't have to impress you. They can just be. And that, more than any clever phrase or impressive insight, is what makes you unforgettable. When you truly listen, you stop trying to control the direction of the conversation. You follow the flow. You read what is not said just as clearly as what is. You notice the change in voice when someone speaks about something they care about. You feel the shift in tempo when emotion begins to rise. And instead of filling the space with commentary, you hold it, steady, patient, curious. And when you do respond, your words carry weight, because they come from silence, not impulse. They come from discernment, not reaction. And those responses, those few sentences placed with precision, strike deeper than speeches ever could. They affirm, they reflect, they validate, they sometimes challenge, but above all, they say, I heard you, I saw you, I didn't rush past your truth. Women sense this difference immediately. They feel the sacredness of being listened to, not as an obligation, but as an honor. They realize that you're not just curious about their body or their beauty, you're curious about their being. And in that realization, something rare begins to happen. Their nervous system settles, their walls lower, their hearts open, and you find yourself not in a flirtation, but in a connection born of trust. That trust is priceless. It is the soil where intimacy grows, not just physical, but emotional, spiritual, intellectual. And when you cultivate it through the art of listening, you don't just create connection, you become someone who heals. Because in a world that constantly demands performance, you become the one person who makes space for truth. That is the mark of a man whose energy has matured. That is what separates you from the noise. That is the power of your listening. Chosen one, there is something that happens when your words are no longer just spoken but backed by motion. There is something magnetic about a man whose actions are aligned with his energy, whose movements carry the same strength as his voice, whose life speaks even when his mouth is closed. And now, after you have opened space for connection through mystery, presence, and deep listening, it is time to inspire through action. Action is where your truth becomes real. It is where people, especially women who are watching with curiosity and discernment, begin to see who you are beneath the persona. You may have sparked something within them through energy, presence, and conversation, but it is in your daily choices, your disciplines, your decisions that they begin to realize, this man is different. You are not here to say what you might do. You are here to do it. You are not here to speak about values. You are here to embody them. You don't talk about growth. You live inside of it. You don't chase pleasure at the cost of integrity. You move with purpose, with vision, and with a quiet discipline that becomes irresistible, not because it demands praise, but because it demands respect. Women are drawn to the power you hold, yes, but they are moved by the evidence of your power in your actions, the way you keep your word, the way you maintain boundaries, the way you say no when it's time to honor your peace, the way you show up when it would be easier to disappear. These are not grand gestures. These are sacred patterns that say, I know who I am, and I move like it. Your high sexual energy becomes even more potent when it is integrated into the way you live. You're no longer just a man who makes others feel something. You're a man who builds something. You are grounded in your rituals. You're growing in your mission. You're committed to becoming more than a moment of pleasure. You are becoming a catalyst for elevation. And this is why you are being watched more closely than you realize. Not for your style, not for your looks, but for your consistency. Are you who you say you are? Do you live what you teach? Do you stand by your convictions when it's difficult? When you begin to inspire others, not just through your charm, but through your choices, you begin to unlock something far greater than attraction. You unlock admiration. You awaken aspiration. Women who once felt curious about you now begin to ask themselves, what in me wants to rise to meet his level? And this is how your energy transforms those around you, not by manipulating, but by modeling. You walk with discipline, and they are inspired to walk more confidently. You speak with integrity, and they are moved to tell their truth. You embody your purpose, and they are reminded to return to theirs. Chosen one, you no longer need to shout your power. You no longer need to display it. You live it. And that living becomes a lighthouse to those who are lost, an anchor to those who feel scattered, a challenge to those who are ready to step into something higher. Your actions are not about proving yourself. They are about revealing yourself. And in that revelation, you don't just answer the curiosity of others, you awaken something in them. Something they didn't even know they were searching for. And when they see it in you, they begin to believe it might exist in themselves too. That is how you inspire through action. That is how you lead without force. That is how you become unforgettable. Chosen one, now that your actions have begun to speak for you, and your energy has become a living statement of purpose, discipline, and alignment, the world sees you differently. Women sense something about you that goes beyond charisma, beyond appearance, beyond conversation. There is a depth in you now, and it cannot be fabricated. It can only be earned through trial, reflection, and internal clarity. You have become a man who no longer impresses simply with what he has, but with who he has become. This depth doesn't come from talking about your past. It doesn't require constant storytelling. It lives in the tone of your voice when you speak from experience. It shows up in the strength of your silence when you choose not to react. It is carved into the way your eyes hold stillness, not to intimidate, but to invite truth. Your depth is not performative. It is not there to seem mysterious. It is the natural result of living through pain, not hiding from it. Of walking through darkness and choosing to rise with wisdom instead of wounds. And this is why women's curiosity around you has only grown more intense. Because you no longer walk like a man who needs to be validated. You walk like a man who has met himself. You've seen your own fears, your failures, your patterns, and instead of running from them, you have integrated them. You are no longer ashamed of your complexity. You wear it like armor, not to shield, but to show that you've earned your strength. And this earned energy carries a gravity that draws others in without effort. Women begin to see you as more than interesting. They see you as anchored. In your presence, they find clarity without being told what to think. They feel calm without needing to understand why. They recognize that you are not a man shaped by fleeting trends, but by eternal truths. And that is what keeps their attention locked in your direction. You are not just a spark. You are fire that never dies out, warm and enduring, whether in silence or in motion. But this depth doesn't stop with presence. It extends into your perception. You begin to see things others miss. You notice when someone's laughter hides sadness. You feel when a shift in mood occurs before words are spoken. You hear the hesitation in a tone, and you understand that often the loudest message is the one never said aloud. This emotional acuity, born from your inner reflection, is what allows people to trust you. It tells them, without a word, I understand what you're not saying, and I will not use it against you. Women are naturally drawn to this sensitivity. Not the fragile kind, but the embodied kind. You are not afraid to witness emotion. You do not flinch in the presence of feeling. You welcome it, hold it, and allow it to pass like a wave that deserves to be honored, not judged. This depth makes your presence feel like a mirror, a place where others can see themselves, not through filters or illusions, but through raw, beautiful, undeniable truth. And yet, you do not demand vulnerability from others. You allow it. You create an environment where the walls come down naturally, not because you forced them, but because your energy said, "You are safe here." That safety becomes addictive. That sense of being seen without performance becomes a rare sanctuary in a world obsessed with image and pretense. And in you, others find what they didn't know they were looking for. Someone who doesn't need to be entertained, impressed, or seduced. Someone who simply wants to know them for who they are beneath the surface. This is the stage of your journey where you are no longer just desired, you are respected. Not for how you look, not for how you talk, but for the stillness and strength that you carry in your soul. And that respect becomes the bedrock of every meaningful connection you build from this point on. Because depth is not something you create, it is something you become. And you, chosen one, have become deep enough to hold others without losing yourself. Chosen one, as you stand in the fullness of your depth, with curiosity growing around you and emotional trust rising in your presence, there comes a final test, one that will follow you through every level of your evolution. It is the test of integrity. Not the kind you speak about, the kind you live by when no one is watching, when you are tired, when you are tempted, when no one would blame you for compromising. This is where most men lose their way. Because it is one thing to cultivate attraction, charm, influence. It is another to protect what you've built with your actions. You see, your high sexual energy gives you access to many experiences. It opens doors, it brings attention. But if your integrity is not intact, that energy becomes unstable. It turns from a blessing to a burden. It seduces you into self-betrayal. And you, chosen one, have come too far to allow that. Your integrity is now your shield, your compass, your inner law. It's the quiet voice that reminds you not just who you are, but what you deserve to be. It's the strength that says no when everyone else says yes. It's the invisible line you draw that says, "I will not compromise my peace for pleasure. I will not trade my purpose for a moment of validation. I will not pretend to be less just to be accepted by those who haven't seen more." And this discipline becomes magnetic because women do not just want a man who can light up a room. They want a man who can be trusted in every room he enters. Trusted not to abuse his power. Trusted not to mislead with charm. Trusted to choose alignment over temptation, even when the cost is loneliness or misunderstanding. You are now a man who honors boundaries, your own and those of others. You do not use your depth to manipulate. You do not use your story to gain sympathy. You do not use your presence to extract admiration. You show up clean, intentional, transparent. And because of this, your name begins to carry weight. Not just in whispers of curiosity, but in conversations of honor. Integrity doesn't always make life easier, but it makes your energy unstoppable. Because when your power and your principles are aligned, you become untouchable. Your conscience is clear, your path is focused, your spirit becomes a fortress. And those around you, especially women, feel that they are not stepping into your fire. They are stepping into your truth. A truth that is not shaken by temptation, fame, emotion, or ego. Even when no one sees, you do what is right. Even when shortcuts are offered, you walk the long road. And in that walk, you become something greater than attractive. You become respected beyond question. You become the man whose energy leaves an imprint. Not because he conquered, but because he remained faithful to his core. Chosen one, this is what separates you now. Not your charm, not your mystery, not even your power, but your integrity, kept pure, refined in fire, and held firm in every decision you make. And in a world starving for men of principle, you have become what so few can claim. A man who is not just wanted, but worthy. And there is no higher honor than that. Chosen one, you have walked through fire and silence, through the mirror of your own soul, through the temptation of attention and the echo of admiration. And here you are now, not just more disciplined, not just more respected, but more present. Presence, the most silent form of power, the most sacred expression of masculinity, has begun to wrap itself around every step you take. It no longer needs to announce itself. It simply is. Women feel it before you speak. They feel it when you walk into the room and don't compete for attention because attention follows you anyway. They feel it when you look at them, not to possess, not to impress, but to see, clearly and without judgment. Your presence has weight now. It lingers. It draws attention not through noise, but through stillness. It whispers rather than shouts, and the curiosity that once fluttered in passing glances now sharpens into fascination. What is it about this man? Why does he feel so complete, even in silence? This presence you've cultivated isn't about standing tall or dressing well, though it may be reflected in those things. It's about the fact that you know who you are. You're not searching for validation. You're not performing. You are not trying to charm your way into rooms that were never meant for you. Instead, you move with the deep knowledge that you belong to yourself, and that knowledge changes how the world responds to you.